Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, the current breaking news, culture, manic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Anyways, it's a funny news day. Greenpeace pays for a piece of art, and it ends up becoming this dope piece of art, this dope piece of Bitcoin art. This is green skull with like laser eyes coming out. Like, I have no idea what they're thinking, but look. I don't think you could make a negative piece of art on Bitcoin. Like, that piece of art only makes sense if you buy into the false narratives of which they're propagating, right? Like that's the only way it makes sense, right? We always say this about memes, right? The only reason that memes are so effective is because they have a common denominator, and the common denominator is truth. So that means that they spread like wildfire because people understand what those images are trying to tell them. Now, when you have a piece of art that that only a very small subsect of people truly understand, then you find yourselves in these types of situations. Memes are not funny unless they're true, right? That's the common denominator, and we always say this, right? Bitcoin is the truth. Anyway, so we're going to get through all that, but we also have very, very special guests today. Our friends over at Luxor have joined us. We have the man, the myth, the legend, Nick himself, CEO of Luxor. Thanks for joining us today. How you doing, bro?
Doing really well. Just got back from a quick overnight trip to Vegas. Vibes were incredibly high there as well, just like everywhere. So out here, ready to get back at the desk and kick it off with some really interesting talk about this run. We've got some really interesting stuff related to hash rate. Hash price is coming up. Miners getting a little bit of relief. So let's chat about it.
Absolutely. And of course, another member of Matt, another member of Luxor. Matt, how you doing? Thanks for joining us today.
I'm doing well today. How about yourself?
Appreciate you joining us. I'm going to mute your mic for a sec. You got a bit of background noise, but we'll unmute you in a sec. Anyways, and I want to bring my legendary co-host, always optimistic. Opti, did you wake up with a smile on your face this morning?
Without spreading fake news, I woke up pretty grumpy this morning, but it just took me about an hour to, get into the vibes. I'm the worst when waking up is the worst part about the day. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Anyways, everybody, we have a lot to talk about. I'm so excited. We have the video from Greenpeace. And of course, what we're going to talk about with our friends over at Luxor is they just released the Luxor firmware for ASIC miners. That's freaking awesome. So we're going to dive into all the details of that. Nick and Matt have all the sauce. Anyways, everybody, let's get to numbers. Let's do this.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Brought to you by NODL. At this point, you should be running your own Bitcoin node. If you don't use your own Bitcoin node, you're trusting someone else's. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core, the Lightning Network, Whirlpool, and Dojo, all from the comfort of your own home. And if you're a digital nomad, you have absolutely no excuse because now you can run a NODL through a virtual private server. Visit nodl.eu today. All right, everybody. I also want to tell you about the biggest Bitcoin conference on the face of the planet. Bitcoin 2023. It's going to be hosted in sunny Miami Beach, Florida, May 18th through the 20th, 2023. Good news for you guys. You can use the promo code SIMPLY to get yourself a big discount on the tickets. Let's go through some of the speaker lists. Michael Lewis, Arthur Hayes, Michael Saylor, Jack Mallers, Alex Gladstein, Stacey Herbert, Matt Odell, Lynn Alden, and many, many more. Again, you could use promo code SIMPLY to get yourself a big discount to Bitcoin 2023. Anyways, let's pull up the numbers at the time of recording. The Bitcoin price is 28,005 sats per dollar, 3,570. Block height 782,332. Reachable Bitcoin node 17,421. Blocks to halving 57,668. Halving estimate April 20th, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity 5,435. Capacity value $152 million US. Realized monetary inflation 1.76%, and the market capitalization $541 billion US. Anyways, everybody, I have a video for us today. Here's the legendary Gigi. And he goes on to say, why is there still poverty? And let's check out the video, and then we'll riff on it. Let's check it out.
And I think it is very important in these replies to people like Krugman that we don't get involved in technical details, but ask them questions almost like a child. Explain to me how the increase in paper pieces can possibly make a society richer. If that was the case, explain to me, why is there still poverty in the world? Isn't every central bank in the world capable of printing as much paper as they want? And do you then think the society, the world as a whole, would be richer? I'm sure the guy cannot answer this type of question. Nobody can answer this type of question. But again, we get far too much bogged down in answering technical details of his argument instead of always repeating this question. Please explain to me how a piece of paper can make society richer.
I mean, a lot of truth in that. Anyways, I feel like this is up your alley, Opti, because this is some what do you call it? Like
pure Austrian economics right here.
Yeah, like some philosophical type of
well, I am definitely taking it a little philosophical here, because it did remind me of a tweet, or actually more like a mantra, that Per Bylen talks about all the time, an Austrian economist on Twitter that I highly recommend everyone goes and follows. And he just beats the drum of the idea of like poverty is our starting point. And the only way that we build prosperity is literally by building it. Like, this is what capitalism allows for us, is providing value, providing products to the market, creating innovations, new technologies to make us richer. And as we know, as Bitcoiners, considering how much money has been burned, how much money they've created, literally by the click of a button, making more paper money does not make us richer. And the Keynesians out there are huffing way too many farts, because if they think just making more money is going to make more paper is going to make us richer, they are wholly confused. And it's really disheartening how many economists out there on mainstream media, corporate press, and all this still believe in the lie of Keynesian economics. Like, we understand, as Austrian economist over here, that people need to put in work. People need to create things. There's no other way than actually building stuff for us to get out of poverty. And just printing more money is not how we make the world more prosperous. I mean, as we've seen, the boomers out there, again, no hate to the boomers, but they literally stole the future by printing more debt than we could ever possibly pay. And yet they are going to continue to double down on the idea that they can print more money and steal from the future to provide to today. And it's wholly mistaken. And again, you know, poverty is the starting point, and it's up to you guys out there as the Bitcoin entrepreneurs to build the things we need to provide a better future. We need to actually create value, not just create more debt and more paper, because this makes us more poor. And again, to the point in the video, if creating more paper money was the route to prosperity, then why do we still see unimaginable poverty around the world? It's almost like a small group of people are stealing the resources and wealth of the world and transferring it and distributing it between themselves. Things that make you say, Anyways, Nico, I'll get off my soapbox today.
Man, I knew that one was Opti. I knew that was up Opti's alley. Like, I had a feeling. I'm like, yep. This one's an alley oop for Ollie, for Opti. Anyways, yeah, man, look, it's so absurd. But again, you live in a world where, you know, it's specifically politicians, right? Like, the central bankers are the enablers, but politicians are like, look, you know, free, all these free things, everything's okay, everything's kumbaya, you know, we could print the money to pay for things. What's never talked about are the unintended consequences of money printing. We always say it on the show. It's a wealth redistribution mechanism from the lower and middle classes that do not have the means to save in assets to back to the very, very wealthy, the quintillionaire class, like we always say, or, you know, back to the government, really, right? It's never talked about. But anyways, that's why we're here. That's what the peaceful revolution is all about. so that you opt out into Bitcoin. You put your time, your work, your energy, your savings into something that truly values your work. And of course, that thing is Bitcoin. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Nick. Nick, what are your thoughts on that video, bro? You're muted, my friend.
Trying to be a good streamer, always mute in between. But yeah, no, I think the ultimately it comes down to you know, the value of the value of sound money for me. Like I do think that, you know, they're effectively stealing future generations' wealth through what they're, you know, the policy that they're implementing, and they're in such a tough spot right now because what we, you know, the reason the market was so bearish after the rate hike was that right now what we're pricing in is more banks failing. There are going to be more banks to fail. There are several that are already on the brink. Increasing rates causes them to have even more pressure, and it's really liquidity pressure. Like for example, Silicon Valley is not it's not insolvent. It was illiquid. They had all of their money tied up in you know, short-ish term bonds, things like that, which do pay interest. But unfortunately, when the bank run started on Silicon Valley Bank, they realized there was not enough cash for them to pull that out. And so these increasing rates definitely cause you know, more banks to start to approach failure. And so right now, I don't know what the outcome is ultimately going to be, because if you don't raise rates, inflation continues to run. But if you raise rates, banks start to fail. All of these things are bad, and I don't really know what the options are other than just a complete opt out, which is why I'm so bullish Bitcoin, and I just sit in Bitcoin and don't have to worry about it. Take it over to Matt. Maybe he's got some thoughts on that as well.
Matt, what's your take, bro?
I think you've got me muted still.
No, I muted you.
Oh, okay. The little thing went away. No, I mean, I'm right there with you. Like I was a little bit negligent having some funds on an exchange, but like when the run started happening that Sunday before or after SVB started to go down, I was just like, nope, got to go sit down, spend a couple hours, make sure all my private keys are where they're supposed to be, seed phrases stored, and just started hauling it off. And it's definitely a comforting feeling to know that, like, hey, I've got a nest egg that I can just kind of step away with and take care of things if I need to. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what drew me into Bitcoin. Like I'm a relatively new adopter, but I've gone in pretty hard on it. So like they started printing stimulus checks. It's like, where is this going to come from exactly? I don't know that this makes a lot of sense long term. And it just kind of drew out, and then more and more evidence came about that, yeah, this isn't going to stop or turn around anytime soon. So better start developing some plans for the future.
100%. And that's what people really don't, you know, like they don't really realize that, right? And that's like kind of the tragedy of like the stimmy checks, where it's like, oh, you know, I'm getting this free money from the government, but like they don't really realize like that money ain't free. You know, they have to print it, and when they print it, it's basically stealing from people's, you know, from people's work, right? So anyways, it's very interesting. I really enjoyed that video. It was enlightening. Anyways, everybody, let's get to the news. We got a lot to talk about. Let's check it out.
The Daily News.
The Daily News is brought to you by Blockstream Jade, built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. It's an open source hardware wallet for the cold storage of Bitcoin. Check out the brand new limited edition color, the transparent green Jade. Blockstream Jade houses a full color camera, allowing for fully air-gapped Bitcoin transactions, scan and display QR codes directly on the device, assign transactions, and verify addresses with ease. Use your Blockstream Jade with your favorite wallet software, such as Blockstream Green, Blue Wallet, Electrum, Sparrow. Get yourself a Blockstream Jade today and take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Boom, boom, new ad. Anyways, that was a tough one. That was a tough one because the jade is green, so it matched with the green screen. Anyways, so I had to use some purple lights instead. Anyways, everybody, so this is the big kahuna, is the big news for today. Greenpeace FUD backfires funds badass Bitcoin artwork. Oh man, these are the shadowy super quarters, I guess. Anyways, to me personally, maybe as a Bitcoiner, I think that looks dope. You know, maybe I wouldn't have it at my house, but like, I think it looks clean. Anyways, in the latest move of the campaign, the activists revealed an 11-foot statue called Satoshi's Skull took over 1,000 hours of human work to make. The artwork was designed by artist Von Wong. And here's another one. According to the artist's website, the skull is meant to expose Bitcoin's impact on climate change. Nevertheless, many Bitcoin plebs have come to actually admire the artwork, some calling it the most metal Bitcoin artwork to date. Right, it goes on to say, here's level 39. Just going to put this out there. Devon Wong is a pretty cool dude. Was just an artist hired by a corrupt organization. What was the corrupt organization? Greenpeace. The truth is that he's actually interested in Bitcoin, and honestly, the artwork is pretty awesome. And who hired Greenpeace? Well, we know is the guys behind Ripple, right? So anyways, Peter McCormack says, is the Greenpeace skull for sale? David Bailey, is it possible to get the skull of Satoshi to the Bitcoin conference this year? NVK, CEO of CoinKite, does anyone know the license of the artwork, the skull artwork? And BTC Session says, I want the laser-eyed Bitcoin skull on a shirt. Anyways, Von Wong, the artist, replies, I really expect to find constructive conversation on the internet, but the DMs have been worth the heat, learning a lot from level 39. I don't think I don't think that this is what they had in mind. Anyways, here's a video of the artist. Let's check it out and we'll talk about it.
Think Bitcoin's not bad for the environment? Think again. Introducing my newest collaboration with Greenpeace. I'm Benjamin Von Wong, and I use art to raise awareness for issues like plastic pollution and climate change. 6 months ago, I was studying the impacts of climate change in Greenland, where I saw firsthand what the climate crisis looks like. Greenland's ice sheet is melting fast, and witnessing it with my own eyes was absolutely gut-wrenching. That's where I met Rolf from Greenpeace and learned about how fixing Bitcoin could help solve climate change.
You hear that? Fixing Bitcoin is going to solve climate change, everybody. Here's the original post from his website. I built an 11-foot skull covered in e-waste to expose Bitcoin's impact on climate change. And what's interesting, though, is that, you know, we got some awesome miners as guests today. Those don't look like ASIC hash boards. Those just look like regular hash boards. And, you know, maybe you could say those are Ethernet cable. I don't know, bro. It goes on to say the giant skull was built using wood, recycled styrofoam, and over 300 pieces of electronic waste. It goes on to say, with 1,000 human hours of work, we brought the skull of Satoshi to life in a huge abandoned warehouse. These are the suits we're trying to reach: institutional investors supporting and energy devouring Bitcoin. But I mean, like, I don't think institutional investors don't make those types of decisions. Anyways, everybody, I think it's absolute ludicrous. It's just absolutely hilarious. I don't know, Opti, what are your thoughts, bro? What do you think?
Well, first and foremost, it is like a very cool shot. Like that skull is pretty badass. Like, again, as Bitcoiners, what do we always do? We just turn negatives into positives. It is our meme world and everyone else is just living in it. And I literally, our meme review today is nothing but green skull memes. So this is just how we do things. We basically co-opt whatever you guys are talking about and we make it good. So there's that. And then also, I don't know if you saw, but the artist Theo Von Wong has come out on Twitter today after getting a lot of feedback, and I think he's either become orange pilled or is becoming orange pilled because he's recently stated on his Twitter account that proof of stake will go against Bitcoin's ethos of decentralization, and he's glad that there was a bunch of this might be a derogatory term, but Bitcoin eco warriors out there that are educating him and showing him that Bitcoin is good for planet Earth. Bitcoin is good for the energy grids. And again, like, there's no such thing as wasting electricity. So, as a Bitcoiner, again, it is, hold on. I think I need to take you down.
That's me. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So as a Bitcoiner, someone that has put in the work to understand Bitcoin and its energy use, on the one hand, it is, kind of disheartening that we have to continuously battle the FUD of Bitcoin's boiling the oceans because I remember what they say, Bitcoin is going to take over like all of the energy use. And yet here we are. It's almost like Bitcoin fixes the grid. And they really need to get better at their messaging because obviously we know that they're paid off. There's a very real link between the Greenpeace, the Change the Code movement, and the co-creator of Ripple, Chris Larson. He basically paid them off to spread FUD. And hey, guys, like if you want to change the code, there's such things as Bitcoin improvement proposals, and you guys could propose some code changes, and we shall see if the free market accepts them. But what do? They just go out on Twitter. They just continue to make up lies, continue to, in my opinion, just say a lot of bullshit. Sorry, Nico.
But that's not what they're advocating for. Like they're advocating for like coercing people to use their code proposal if they accumulate enough political willpower. Like that's what they're advocating for. They're not advocating for, because they could fork it. Greenpeace is very, very, like they could totally fork their version of Bitcoin, but they know that not that many people are going to adopt it, right? So they want to coerce people into using the version of Bitcoin that they want, but that's not necessarily what everyone wants. This is fiat as fuck. This is proof of stake as fuck. But I'm so happy that it's totally backfiring, and their meme didn't work. They got out memed. They thought they would meme us. We memed them back harder. And it's so funny, watching the artist be like, hey, I wasn't totally correctly informed on this. But hey, looks bad on Greenpeace, but who's behind Greenpeace? Who's funding Greenpeace? Is the Ripple guys, right? So this is an attack from another shitcoin, and here we are. Anyways,
wait, Nico, before we go on, imagine trying to battle the army of Bitcoin autists in a meme war. Like, wouldn't want to do that.
Anyways, Nick, what's your take on this, bro? It must be close to heart. This is a direct attack on Bitcoin mining's energy use.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not new. It's nothing new. It is kind of hilarious that they made this, went out and spent all the time to make this piece, and now all the energy wasters, energy wasting enjoyers out there now really like. And so I think, that is pretty comical. I mean, a lot of people have like inscribed it and everything as well, which is even more ironic and funny. But yeah, I think right now we're going to see, we're going to see where their morals actually lie with regard to how they approach this. Because right now, all it is just virtue signaling and LARPing, because they're not actually doing anything other than just like shouting into the clouds. I agree with you. Like you said, if you want to put out a bit, go put out a bit, and we can talk about it. It's not that anybody can open a bit. So let's see where it lands. On the point of wasting energy, actually, we technically are wasting energy. That's like one of the mechanisms of proof of work, is that you need to provably be, basically what you're doing when you're doing proof of work is showing that you have some economic incentive within this ecosystem or within this decentralized network. So you do that by proving that you've wasted some energy, and what you're wasting is all of the hashes that are below the target. And so you can effectively match up that I've wasted some number or I've expended some level of effort by proving that I've done all these other hashes to submit, ultimately the winning block. That said, the term waste in this regard is maybe not the right term, because what you're really doing is just proving your economic interest in this decentralized network. And yeah, I mean, that's just the bottom line. The point, though, that wasting energy, or even using energy in this way to prove that you're doing some work isn't inherently bad. Our generation, I feel like probably the majority of your listeners are millennials. I'm a millennial. I'm what they call a geriatric millennial, an older millennial. But I think we have all been taught ever since, maybe when I started going to school and when I started going to regular public school in 1998 through 2007, we were all kind of taught that you should, conserve energy, all of those things. But it's really and so we've been ingrained with this idea that using energy is bad. Flying on planes and doing all this stuff is inherently bad. It's not inherently bad to use energy. Actually, the more energy that a society consumes, the better the human condition. The United States uses more energy than any country in the world. They also have the highest quality of life of any place in the world. So that is, and I guess that correlates with other top first world nations as well. China is starting to use a ton of energy, but they are also massively improving the quality of life of people there. So continuing to use energy, while we have been trained to think is bad, is actually very, very good for your society.
100%.
From that point and expanding a little bit more on it, what we see, like being able to use and consume this energy. The reason that we were taught that it's bad is actually from the pollution that comes from it. Now, there are some that would say that there are some that will say that maybe CO2 isn't a bad thing. I don't subscribe to that. I do think that that we are in somewhat of a climate crisis. Is it human caused? Probably, but I also think that is a side effect of increasing other people's quality of life. Sure, we do have a more unstable climate, but that comes at the benefit of many, many more people joining like the first world. And so at the end of the day, I think everything that has happened up to now has been a net benefit for humanity from an energy consumption perspective. Bitcoin now teaches us how to harness energy more effectively, produce cleaner energy. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that Bitcoin mining is going to save the world by incentivizing renewable energy generation and continuing to push that technology forward is going to be amazing. So those are a bit of a long bit there, but it's something I'm really passionate about because Bitcoin mining is going to save the world because of the way that it incentivizes renewable energy generation. Matt, I can see that you're chomping at the bit on this one.
Yeah, I mean, just to the point about the absence of hash boards in the sculpture, I mean, Ripple's got a lawsuit to fund, so they probably had to scale back on the budget. Those hash boards are pretty expensive these days. And then about energy consumption. Yeah, I mean, the whole point about human flourishing and energy consumption, like there's plenty of data out there to support that. So I don't think there's any point in trying to debate that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I definitely agree. I was out in West Texas to start the week working on our firmware and just driving past. I'll shout out Steve Barber, the fields of coal, because there's tons of solar panels out there and they're all made with coal, right? But the idea that consuming energy is bad is just kind of laughable. Barber also says that either your Tesla is a zero emission, either both your Tesla and your miner are zero emissions or neither are, right? Like consumption of power isn't the problem. It's the source of the power if you want to go down the path of curbing emissions. And there's obviously something to waste not, want not. But if you want to talk about energy waste, let's talk about the loss of power in transmission lines, in space heaters in Canada. Let's talk about all the different ways that we waste energy, because ultimately the reason that Bitcoin wastes energy is because when you look at it as a currency, what is a currency? It's a medium of exchange. And most economists leave the end of that phrase off. Like, what is it an exchange of? Ultimately, it's an exchange of value, which is a proxy for people's time and energy, right? So like if you try to eliminate the energy from the introduction of currency to an economy, you lose. You get fiat and you get the depreciation, you get the devaluation of a currency. And that's what we've had for decades now. WTF happened in 1971. So the idea of trying to separate consumption from the generation of Bitcoin is laughable, but it's also a really good insight into how naive people can be. I mean, for example, when I first came to Bitcoin, I'm like, oh, I can probably just write like a Python script. I won't be able to make a lot of Bitcoin, but I can probably mine Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, I probably could write a Python script, but when I say not make a lot, that would be probably the understatement of the decade. There's just a lot to learn for everyone. And kudos to this guy, Von Wong. I hadn't followed him at all, but if he's really hearing out Bitcoiners and learning something, that's more valuable than anything that Greenpeace would have contributed here. It's just, it's a shame that they're trying so hard to derail a cultural movement that they're ultimately just trying to profit from on the other side with a inferior technology.
100%. And that's really, that's really the signal here, right? Is that, the what you said about the artist, right? I don't think he totally knew. I think what he was fed was what Greenpeace was telling him. I don't think he understood the nuance, because like there's nuance to it, right? It's like Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin uses a lot of energy, but what energy is it actually using, right? And that makes a total difference, right? Because it's like Bitcoin isn't using energy that in populated cities, it would be uneconomical for Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin is using isolated energy or stranded energy. That's the only way it's economically viable, especially on a larger scale, right? And that's never talked about, right? It's always like Bitcoin is using more energy than the country of Denmark, right? I don't know, Nick, if you want to chime into that.
I do. Unplug Denmark.
No, don't unplug Denmark. Denmark's cool.
Love Denmark. Actually, I've only ever been to Copenhagen for a few minutes. But anyway, yeah. Actually, I'm just going to kick it over to Matt. I went too long on the last one, took up all the airspace. I'm just going to kick it right over to Matt.
All right, Matt.
I mean, it is what it is, y'all. I mean, like the idea of trying to criticize energy consumption is just, it's laughable in the context of incentivizing development of efficient use of energy. Like there's no better tool than Bitcoin. Like, and so here's the thing, it ultimately boils down to like some of your core beliefs about how society should be structured. Are you a believer in top-down government? And if you are, then like I can understand how you might come to the conclusion that you need to eliminate Bitcoin because that's not in line with the top-down narrative. But if you have any belief in like open societies, free markets, even if you're like skeptical of free markets because of the crony capitalism that's happened for the past 5 decades, right? Like even if you're skeptical, but you think that there's a chance that they could work, you should really be listening to what Bitcoiners are saying, because there is no better incentive to develop a more efficient use of power and potentially distribute equitably generation of power than Bitcoin. I mean, like, again, I'll go back to it. I was in West Texas, and the amount of power that's being generated out there is just unbelievable. So like, if you can just start to move any percentage of that closer to populations with better transmission lines, and you can start to take losses, you have the power there. Let's get it back to society. And then, I mean, again, the more power that a society has available to it, the easier it is for that society to flourish.
100%, man. Anyways, everybody, let's get to the culture. We're going to talk about Luxor Mining's new miner firmware. Anyways, let's check it out.
The Daily Culture.
Brought to you by SwanBitcoin.com. Swan is the best way to build your Bitcoin stack with automated Bitcoin savings plans and instant purchases, serving clients of any size from $10 to $10 million. We love Swan because they incentivize self-custody and dollar cost averaging. What are you waiting for? Visit SwanBitcoin.com today. All right, guys, I also want to tell you about Swan's new offer. Bitcoin is generational wealth, and you can secure your bright orange future with the Swan IRA. Real Bitcoin, no taxes. Swan offers both traditional and Roth options to best fit your needs. Create your IRA and start adding Bitcoin in less than 1 minute. Transfers and rollovers are available. Swan's Bitcoin experts will get you set up with no transfer fees and no minimum balance requirements. This is the real thing, non-ETF or other derivative. Get the real thing and get it at Swan. Go to swan.com/IRA for more details. Anyways,
all right. I thought you froze for a moment. I thought we froze for a moment. All right. Well, guys, I have their Twitter account here, Luxor, and you guys just announced your newest project, LuxOS. But instead of me just talking about it on Twitter, you guys told us that we have a live demo. So let me get this up here for you guys, and we can talk about that. Here we go. Let me take my screen down. All right. I'll give you guys the floor. All right, so Matt, this is your screen. So tell the people what LuxOS is, and then I guess maybe go into what's going on this screen right here.
Absolutely. So LuxOS is our entry into the aftermarket firmware market. So every miner that you purchase has some form of firmware, and they generally ship with a firmware generated by the manufacturer, right? Bitmain, WhatsMiner, they all have their own firmware. We entered the market of third-party firmware because when those miners ship, the firmware is relatively limited in the capacity of what the machine can do. If you imagine, I guess a good example would be like chipping a car. If you've ever tinkered with cars, right? So like you can add a chip to a car and it lets you get more horsepower. You may have to use a little more gas to get that horsepower, but it generally lets you tune your car, right? So that's what our firmware does. It allows you to get better performance out of your machine in a number of ways. So there's all kinds of metrics when it comes to assessing miners, but what we have here is our dashboard to kind of go through some of it. But the big things that come into play here are your clock speed, so your frequency that you're hashing, your voltage, which kind of determines how much power you're consuming as well. And then one of the biggest variables here that isn't as controllable as temperature, right? So like if you're mining in West Texas and it's 110 degrees outside, your miner is going to be a lot less efficient than a miner operating in, like, let's say 60 degrees Fahrenheit in Seattle or something like that, right? So there's some fancy math that proves to you basically that the machine is going to be much less efficient at higher temperatures. So what our firmware allows you to do, it allows you to underclock, let's say in West Texas, to where you're generating less hash rate, but you're consuming less power at the same time. And another thing that potentially does is, as you generally, when you hash faster, you generate more heat. So you have kind of like a system that can stack up the heat and then potentially shut down, because once you get to a certain temperature, the stock firmware is going to shut your machine down. So what you can do is underclock, which means you're not generating as much heat. You get better uptime on your machine, because once a machine gets so hot, you have to pull it. Like we've talked to a couple clients where they're like, I have to go pull miners out of the rack, set it aside in a different unit so it can cool down. And that's time offline, right? Like that's sats that they're not putting into their wallet. So the big thing about our firmware is that it just provides customizability for any client and any application, right? Nick can tell you, he was running an S19 XP in his garage. He got it really stinking hot, but it was okay because he was in Seattle and it was cold. That's a very different scenario from Texas, where I have this is an S19J Pro in my garage where it's a little bit warm. So I'm actually underclocking right now, because you can see down here we have the temperatures on the chip. Like, you don't want to get close to 65 or you might start doing damage. Do you have anything you want to add here, Nick?
Yeah. Like you said, so it looks like you've got it running about 525, which is a very nice, nice safe overclock there. Or actually, that's a bit of an underclock, I think. So actually a bit of an underclock. So that's trying to keep it cool.
Could you explain to everybody what an underclock means, Nick?
Yeah. So your the chip in your machine comes with this basically, it's called the clock rate, and it means how many times per second is it running an instruction. And if you increase the chip rate, you do more instructions, but obviously use more energy, produces more heat. The chip gets hotter. If you lower that rate, it will execute instructions slower, but also uses less energy and produces less heat. So what Matt was referencing is, if you underclock when it's hot, you're able to keep your chip temps lower, especially when if your fan's running at 100% and your chip temp is still over 65. Somebody saw Corgi in the background. Yeah, that's Bandit. So anyway, that chip temp starts to go up when it's hotter. If the fans are at 100% and you can't keep the chips below 65 degrees or whatever you think is safe for your machine, then you can start to underclock, lower that instruction rate just a little bit. That's what overclocking and underclocking are. And really, one of the key differentiators around how we've designed this firmware is Matt put it perfectly. He said, chipping a car. I like to say, remember we used to do jailbreak iPhones. iPhone's a great platform, like maybe one of the best products ever built from a product perspective. But there are still some features that are left locked, and you can unlock them with different firmware. In that case, same thing applies here. The S19 XP, the S19, these are incredible platforms, but there's still a bit of some features that you could add by unlocking them. And so that's kind of the way I'd like to describe it as well, just like what Matt said. But we took this from a miner's perspective, looked at what the trends are in mining. Of course, demand response and controllable load resourcing. Those are the stories of Bitcoin mining right now. All the biggest miners are taking part in these types of activities, which is where you turn your machines down when prices are high, or you turn them up when prices are low, and you're effectively reducing the what we call the demand curve delta. In Texas, the demand curve delta is something like 8 or 10 gigawatts, which is probably it's basically the entire it's like the entire energy consumption of the Bitcoin network and across the globe. And that's just in Texas, the amount of energy used at the bottom of the curve and the top of the curve. And that means, the amount of energy being consumed at any point in time. It can fluctuate between 8 and 10 gigawatts through the course of a day. Bitcoin miners compress that. The demand curve delta, if you can reduce the demand curve delta, you massively improve the efficiency of your grid, because your transmission lines and all of your distribution doesn't have to make up for that delta. You also don't have to bring on what are called peaker plants, which are like nat gas plants that come in and help when the demand is super high. That's why we saw some of those blackouts in Texas, is because they just weren't able to get those things turned on in time. Also, there was renewable is sustainable energy. Renewable energy is also what we call intermittent, meaning the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. And in the case of what happened in Texas when everything got super cold, not only was it super cold, the wind was not blowing and the sun was not shining super bright. So we had this huge drop off of sustainable energy. The peaker plants weren't able to get turned on in time. And I think it was because they were actually frozen, and they had to figure out how to heat them up to get them running again. So there was a confluence of events that caused this to occur. Now, if we had, say, 50% more energy in the grid being consumed by Bitcoin miners, they could have all come offline, and all of that energy could have flowed through to the cities. That's the concept of demand response and controllable load resourcing. And what we designed the LuxOS firmware to specifically target that type of activity, which we think is going to become probably the most ubiquitous and profitable way to mine Bitcoin. So we took the miner and basically removed all of the guardrails and give people a very strong platform and tool set that they can use for taking part in those types of activities. It's also a phenomenal platform for people to do hobbyists and tinkering mining. We have some people that know, because we expose each chip individually. You can actually see where chips are hot. You can see here, Matt has shown his screen, so you can actually see every chip individually. We actually exposed an API that allows you to remove or to modify each chip individually. So you could actually take, say, board number 2, chip number 45, and clock it down a little bit. We know that board number 2 here, board 1, the middle board, we know that board's generally a little hotter. And we actually know there are places on that board itself that are a little hotter. So you can reduce the frequency of some of those chips, and then keep the chips at high frequency on board 0 and board 2, which stay cooler. So these are all things that we tried to expose via as a platform. So you can use this ASIC in this mining machine in a lot of different ways now. People are super creative. They do all sorts of things, mining machines to jacuzzis. We've seen people hook up mining machines to heat their home, which is incredible. If anybody's seen some of those pictures of a Bitcoin miner plugged into the central heating of a home, it's incredible. Then of course at larger scale, people are using these to balance the grid or consume stranded energy, and all of those things we built the LuxOS platform to support. Kick it back over to you, Matt. Anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, there's one feature I think might play here. So I've tuned in for a couple episodes in the past for you guys. I know y'all have been talking about choke points. So one of the things that's kind of relevant here is if the on-ramps are taken away, the only real other opportunity to get Bitcoin is by mining, right? Now, not everyone can afford a S19j Pro by themselves, but if you want to pool in with a buddy and have a stream of sats that isn't necessarily KYC, you can use this feature that we introduced where you can split your hash rate. So I could add a pool here for Bill and a pool here for me, and we can split the hash rate at the machine. So we can go halvesies on the CapEx, and then let's say someone has an opportune purchase agreement for power, then they can host it at their house and mine there. So you have different ways to do that, and then you don't have to worry about splitting out the Bitcoin at the end. The hash rate just goes directly to your pool account, which Luxor offers a pool. So we'd be happy to host you there. So it's a really neat feature for people who want to do some home mining, but don't necessarily want to fork out a couple grand for a miner by themselves.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting stuff. Dude, I'm so glad that, I'm so glad that that you guys said that you offer hosting, because one of the main questions, and I would love for you guys to elaborate a little bit more and dive deeper into that, because one of the main issues that I always get from someone is, hey, I live in the UK, electricity prices are too expensive, I can't mine, but I still want to get involved. So maybe you guys could talk a little bit about what hosting is and what your offerings in that are.
Just to clarify, we don't actually offer hosting services. We have a pool.
I misheard. I misheard.
No, I mean,
yeah.
I thought that's what you said. You didn't say hosting?
So you could do like micro hosting. Like if you've got a buddy who has the power, I mean, like peer-to-peer hosting, not like the industrial hosting is what this would enable.
Okay. Okay.
But there are obviously hosts out there. And so that boils down to trust. Third party, I'm drawing a blank here, but you understand, like, make sure you monitor who you trust in an economic
Gotcha. No worries. I must have misheard when I heard you say hosting.
So we work closely with a lot of hosts. Yeah. We don't offer hosting directly, meaning we don't own any infrastructure like that and offer it directly through Luxor. But we also have great partnerships with a lot of really high quality hosts that we've worked with a lot in the past. And while Matt's totally right that if you don't have physical access to your machine, not your hash, not your host, not your hash. But we do work with some really high quality hosts that we do have a lot of trust in. And so if anybody is here looking for some hosting or wants to chat about like different hosting options, we have a lot of options available, both in the US, Canada, some Latin American locations, and working on some Asian locations, but generally those we try to stick to the Western hemisphere. It's just what we know best. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool, guys. It sounds, and I've used your guys' ASIC desk before as well as a purchase miners. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we got into brokerage, mining machine sales, which we call ASIC trading, because we view them as an asset, and that we try to think of them as a liquid asset, meaning they can be readily bought and sold the same way you buy any liquid commodity asset, similar to oil or corn or gold or whatever. So we view them as an asset. So we call it the ASIC trading desk. Underneath the hood, that looks a lot like machine brokerage, which is finding a buyer and lining up a seller, that sort of thing. But so we've done that traditionally since 2021 as an OTC desk, meaning we have somebody that's manning a Telegram group or working a Telegram group. And then when somebody says they want to buy, we go out and find a seller, or somebody wants to sell, we go out and find a buyer, that sort of thing. But we have recently launched what we call our Luxor RFQ. It looks a lot, you can actually think of it like an eBay for mining machines. But the reason we built that instead of using eBay or Amazon or whatever is because mining machine sales are actually quite unique. You need a lot of times you need to parse them up into multiple buyers. If you have a big seller, like we saw yesterday, there was a 15,000 machine order, sell order, and you need to most likely break that up into multiple buyers, because very rarely are you going to find one single buyer that's willing to take 15,000 machines. We built this platform specifically for that, to help make that easier for people that want to buy buy machines. It's called RFQ. You can go to rfq.luxor.tech and take a look. UI is incredible. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at on brokerage. And the idea behind that is it's a much more scalable platform. And it's also like the user experience is 1,000 times better when you're using something like that, rather than having to like keep track of a bunch of different Telegram chats or WeChat groups or things like that. The OTC world is where a lot of these markets start to form, like, almost Bitcoin futures started as OTC, all of this stuff started OTC, and then eventually it matures into a more platform type product similar to what RFQ is now, and that's really where we're at. And it's a great platform. And I use it. I was the first purchase. The XP that I tested firmware on, I purchased through RFQ, which was great. So, you want to add to that, Matt?
No, I've been checking it out today. Actually, I have a buddy who wanted to buy some ASICs, so I put in an order for him. But yeah, it's pretty nifty. Like I have it pulled up here on the screen. I don't know if anyone can see it, but yeah, it's eBay for ASICs, and it definitely provides a layer of trust.
All right, guys, let's get to the meme review. Let's review some memes. Let's do it.
The Daily Meme Review.
brought to you by Kaboom Racks. I get this question all the time. Nico, where should I buy Bitcoin miners? The answer is Kaboom Racks. It's the best place to buy Bitcoin miners. That's where you're going to find the best deals and the best prices. Start your mining utopia today. To check out their racks, you got to go to t.me/Kaboom Racks. Join their Telegram group and start your mining journey today. Kaboom Racks.
All right, guys, this is the meme review. This is your favorite portion of the show where you guys send us memes. We review them live, and you guys give us your meme review scores in the chat. So before I finish the memes, drop your meme review score in the chat. As we say every single day, tweets are the bullets, memes are the artillery. It is our meme world, and everyone else is just living in it. As you can see very clearly on today's episode, we are in an information war, and the powers that be do not want you to hold Bitcoin. So what are we going to do? We're going to ridicule them in memes, and we're going to stack sats, stay humble, and spread the Bitcoin signal far and wide. Anyways, I already told you guys that today's meme review is just full of the Greenpeace skull memes. So we're going to go in. We're going to dunk on Greenpeace, not the artist, because he may have become orange pilled. He did a great piece, but we're going to ridicule Greenpeace while we do it. Anyways, this first meme is by @DirGigi, or actually, I'm not exactly sure if this is actually @DirGigi because he was just reposting all of these green school memes, but I really like this one. And it goes, this kid is looking at his future and needs sunglasses because it's so fucking bright. And we got the kid here going, thank God Grandpa converted fiat to Bitcoin, and the younger little brother going, what's fiat? As he looks at the green skull with nuclear power plant on his head. Anyways, this next one is by Bikes and Bitcoin. Shouts out to you, Bernie. Goes, Bernie Sat Monster. I'm leaving the typo in. And we got the Bernie Sanders meme, but of course, we got the green skull on his head, and he goes, I am once again asking for your excess and waste energy to secure the network. Okay, this next one is by RDBTC, and he goes, well, hashtag who paid you, hashtag FUD, @Greenpeace, @Ripple, and we got the Scooby-Doo meme where he pulls off the villain's mask, and the villain's mask is the green skull, and under the mask, oh, what do we find? It is the Ripple logo, because this is all FUD paid for by the Ripple Foundation. And on that point, we got this meme by World of Rusty. And again, it's the little kid looking at the green skull meme, and he goes, wow, Ripple finally produced something of value. It's a beautiful piece of art that was supposed to FUD Bitcoin. But hey, it is our meme world, and we are taking, this is mine now. This is mine now. Anyways, this next meme is by Bitcoin Errorlog, or otherwise known as John Carvalho. And he goes, all your inflation are belong to us. And we got the green skull. And again, with the saying, all your inflation are belong to us. If you know, you know, to play on a classic Bitcoin meme. This next one is by @HODLSouth, and it's the classic come on, do something meme, but instead today we have the guy poking the green skull, and the guy has the Ripple logo on his chest, and he pokes the green skull and goes, come on, spread some FUD. The FUD backfired because we just took it, and this is mine now. Anyways, this next meme is by Lena C. Shen. She goes, I love Bitcoiners, and we got a little hodler comic strip here. And the first box goes, what can I do to make Bitcoin look evil and scary? And he thinks a little more, and he goes, I'm going to commission some epic anti-Bitcoin art. And then the next box, we got the green skull, and we got a Bitcoiner going, whoa, what's that? And then the guy goes, this is a symbol of Bitcoin's evil energy use and ocean boiling. And every Bitcoiner goes, this is so cool. Look at the laser eyes. This shit's badass. And then he goes, hold on, you're not supposed to like it. It's our meme world, and this is where we are today. If you are out there on Twitter today, I'm sure that your timeline is just full of a bunch of green skulls. And this last one is by Bitcoin Scoresby. And I really love this one because, hey, we're not just going to ridicule the Greenpeace FUD campaign. We're going to drop a little truth on there. So this is a picture of a money printer, and it's got the Bitcoin logo, and it goes, hey, Greenpeace, people can't save the planet if they can't save for the future. Change the money, not the code. Give you some horns for that one, because I felt that one. That was a solid one. Anyways, drop your meme review score in the chat as we covers ours live. Oh, yeah. I got my score already. I don't know if I've given this one yet, Nico. Actually, I may have given it already, so I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to give the Saint Opti, what do you call these things? Table saver, but with the mug. The set. Shouts out to Extemos. You're muted. Hold on.
There we go. Unmute me. I'm going to give it a BitPlates domino. BitPlates are designed to preserve Bitcoin wallet seed phrases and passphrases made from highly corrosion resistant 316 marine grade stainless steel, offering the ultimate protection against extreme temperatures. 10% off BitPlates using promo code Simply. That's my score. Boom.
Dope score. Let me go get it. 1 sec.
Okay. Matt, why don't you give a score while Nick gets his score?
Oh, upside down. Lux OS SD card.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I was going to say mine is the favorite, but that was a pretty damn good one.
I got the same one. I have the same one in my closet.
Wait, what is this?
It's the executive order.
Oh.
This is a Bitcoin war bond.
Yeah.
Executive order 69420.
Yeah.
This is an incredible piece of art by a friend of mine, Tommy. We're a Bitcoin magazine artist. We actually inscribed this. This thing is freaking cool. I just got it, so it's not framed yet, but this is going to be sitting up here somewhere on this wall behind me because this is like one of my new favorite pieces of art.
Yep. Yeah. I got the same one. He
Shouts out to Tommy.
Made a couple. The original art piece, by the way, is hanging in Bitcoin Park in Nashville, Tennessee. It's huge and it looks awesome. Anyways, guys, before we get to the meme scores, I want to give a shout out to our awesome clothing sponsor. Opti's going to model RepresentLTD.com. Opti, show it off, brother. Show it off. You can use promo code Simply-Bitcoin. Get yourself a big discount. I'm wearing the Simply Bitcoin merch. It's sold out, but I think there's some t-shirts left. Get it while supplies last. RepresentLTD.com. Promo code Simply. Anyways, Opti, let's get to some scores.
This one, I'm putting this one in it. Nika's trolling himself on this one.
Meme score. Shout out for the two guys talking about cool nifty eBay for racks just before Kaboom Racks commercial. Kind of fits to the Satoshi Skull story. No, hey, Kaboom Racks is dope. I don't know what you guys are talking about. The P-Man van. I give those memes. Garlinghouse looking at the Greenpeace logo as his shitcoin goes down. All right, next one. All right, Bitcoin Becca. Wait, I revised my score. I give those memes a Greenpeace sponsorship. Very, very nice. Nihilus Fields score. I'm changing the code. Running Greenpeace. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. All right. Next one, score. Now also undead have laser eyes. Very, very nice. Next one, Andres. I give the memes a Greenpeace hard Bitcoin 4 coins to dump on the trade fight world bros.
Okay. I think these are scores, but they're just words.
Cartwood Stone toasters. Very, very nice. Next one, a Majorga micro. Very, very nice.
Micro SD.
Micro SD. Ranmore heaters. Okay, we're done. We're done with the scores, guys. Thank you so much.
Wait. One more.
Planet Earth. My memes. Planet Earth meme score. An army of autistic Bitcoiners not giving a fuck. Okay. Very, very, very nice. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. I want to give a shout out to our awesome guests from Luxor, Nick and Matt. Thank you so much for joining us today, bros.
Thanks for having us. Really
appreciate you guys coming. Guys, go ahead, Nick.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Everyone, go follow Matt. He's actually quite good at Twitter.
Okay.
Burgeoning Twitter star here.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. We will see you Monday, 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode. Love you all. Enjoy your weekend. Peace out.
Let's go.
All right. Is this over?
Yeah, I believe so. I think we jump over to spaces.
No, guys, stay for a second. It's hot right now because I haven't ended the screen.
Hot mic.
There's a bit of a delay. Just give it like 30 seconds. No, there's a delay on the stream. Give it 30 seconds.